So Hare Krishna and Dandavats pranams to all the devotees. I hope my audio and video is okay.
Yes, Prabhu, it is perfect.
All right, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, pranams.
Narayani Mataji, you should make Prabhuji the host. Yes.
Prabhu, yeah, I did that.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
sure, she's done that. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcoming each one of you for today's session. So we will be looking into shlokas or verses from 11 to 16 in the third canto, 23rd chapter. That's what we will cover. This is about Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So that is the topic that we will discuss. And then I'll just try to have this particular topic for maybe a half an hour or so from now, 25 minutes or so. We'll try to keep it short. And then we will also try to understand understand the life of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Okay, so that is what we will do now. So that should go on for another 20-25 minutes, and then we can conclude today's session. So the verses will be really brief, and then I'll also briefly talk about His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Okay, so as you all know, he left his body yesterday. So as a mark of respect, and also it's a nice opportunity for us to dwell on this wonderful soul. So we will do that. So before that, we'll start with our Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. So just let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So this particular shloka, yeah, 3.23.11. Tatreti krishyam upasiksha yathopadesham yanaisame karshito ati riram shayatma siddhyate te krita manobhava dharshithaya dinastad isha bhavanam tadharsham vichikshva. So that's the verse. So anybody wants to repeat? Yeah, I see a lot of hands up. Yes, Matajis, you can go ahead. Sudha Mataji, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavats pranam.
Dandavats pranam to you.
Tatreti krityam upasiksa yatopadesham yenaisa me karsito atiriram sayatma siddhyeta te kritam manobhava dharsitaya dinastadisa bhavanam sadrisam vichakshra. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So
Hare
the
Krishna.
translation, yes.
Translation. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Pranams. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Devahuti continued. My dear Lord, I am struck by excited emotion for you. Therefore, kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my Lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So yeah, we will try to read the shlokas. I think we have time. Yes, the next shloka is there. Who would like to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Priyaya priyam anvichan kardamo yogamastitah vimanam kamagam shattas tarhi eva
Chikarat.
chikarat. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Shobha
Krishna.
Mataji, you can read the translation, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranams, Pujis Mataji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maitreya continued. O Vidura, seeing you seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Haribol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Now, Kishori Mataji, you can read the shloka, and Sindhu Mataji, you can read the translation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Sarvakama dudam divyam sarvaratna samanvitam sarva ardhayu pacha yordaka mani stambherupasaskrutama.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna
much,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Pranams, Prabhuji.
Namas pranams.
Text 13. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
It was a wonderful structure bedecked with all sorts of jewels, adorned with pillars of precious stones and capable of yielding whatever one desired. It was equipped with every form of furniture and wealth, which tended to increase in the course of time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much.
Shilpa Mataji,
14
you can
and
read the
15. Yeah.
You can read the shloka, and Prashanti
Hare
Mataji, you can read the translation. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam. Divyotakaranopetam sarvakala sukhavaham pattikabhihi patah kabhim vichitrabhiralam kritam stragni
Vichitra
vichitram alyabhima agnishina shandribihi Dukulakshauma akaushe nanagastre virajitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. The translation, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, translation by Prabhupada ki jai. The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Ramakrishna Prabhuji, you can read the next shloka. And Archana Mataji, you can read the translation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Upare upari vinyasta nilayeshu pratak kispati it kasipupi kantam paryanka vyajana snaiyaha.
The translation. Is anybody reading the translation?
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So this particular shloka, or the set of shlokas that we are going to see, I think there are certain aspects that are coming out very clearly, and Prabhupada has elaborated on those, which we will try to discuss. So before we get started, So offering prayers or pranams to all the Vaishnavas, seeking your blessings, so that I'll be able to do some justice to these wonderful verses. The right words come at the right time in the right spirit. And this is being done as a service or a seva from my side for the lordships, for the pleasure of the lordships, and for my own purification also. Hare Krishna. So what is this particular conversation that we are looking at? This is actually a conversation between Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So we know that they have got married, and then there is this discussion that is happening. After she has served them for many, many years, she has served the hermit, she has served Kardama Muni, and in assisting him to ensure that his yagnas and meditation and everything is going on perfectly without any hindrance. So she has assisted very wonderfully. And then after that, then this conversation is happening. See, now, actually, if you look at the 11th verse, it is said that Devahuti is saying that I am stuck by excited emotions for you. So she is actually bearing her heart to her husband. So she's saying, like, therefore kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures, so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose, because we know that they were in an hermitage, and hermitage is a very frugal, humble, down-to-earth kind of a setting. Very wonderful setting, but then very down to earth, and it is not suitable for certain activity. I mean, all kinds of activities, especially the material activities. So she understands that she is a princess. I mean, she is a daughter of a king, and so she is used to the luxury. She knows all these things. So she is saying that this may not be a very suitable place for us to continue with the instructions given in terms of having progeny and then taking things forward. So that's the point that we are discussing now. So Prabhupada, very rightly, he is bringing about aspects of how Vedic literature has not only, spiritual instructions. Of course, there are spiritual instructions. So we know, and we have been hearing that, and there is plenty more for us to hear. But we should also understand that there are also instructions which are talking about how to prosecute or how to execute our material existence very nicely. So when we are talking about material existence, we are talking about the material body, and then the wants of the body or the desires, or even the duties of the body. I mean, because we are in a certain place, in a certain position, and we have a certain kind of relation with certain types of people. So what is the duty that I have towards each one of them? So that's all that is dwelt upon in detail in the Vedic literatures. And also spiritual things are dwelt upon. So now many people are not aware of this, or they think that all Vedas are one, and then they'll just think that, okay, in the Vedas this is given, in the Vedas they have said that. And then there are so many conflicting things that would come out that it would confuse people if you hear all of them in one go without the proper classification of the headings under which each one is being discussed. So we need to understand that. So now, at a very high level, Prabhupada is mentioning that there are spiritual instructions, and also there are instructions which is there for how to go about doing one's work in the material realm or in the material world. So the dharma, artha, kama, and then moksha. So in that, if you look at the dharma or the religious texts which are there, so those texts provide directions for how to go about earning money, artha, how to go about fulfilling desires, kama, and then finally how to move towards liberation. So all these things are dwelt upon in detail there. So that's what Prabhupada is trying to say. And then he is saying that, therefore, Devahuti asked her husband how to prepare herself for the union or for the sex life according to the Vedic instructions. See, now, whatever a person wants to do or whatever in the material world, for that also they are looking at what are the instructions that are there in the Vedic scriptures. So that's how cognizant they are, or that's the kind of importance that is given. So it's not like, oh, this is material, so that's okay, now I'll not look at spiritual. No, everything, the basis is the Vedas. Whether it is spiritual aspects, of course, in spiritual aspects, they take it from the Vedas, and also the material aspects also, they look at instructions that are given there. And our Varnashrama or any of the things that was there in the Sanatana Dharma, everything was ordained or set up in a certain way based on these instructions which are there in the Vedic system. So here, there is this aspect of having good children is being discussed. So now any Grihastha couple would like to have good children. So what do we mean by good children? Children who are obedient, yes, of course. Children who are sattvic, children who have who are favorably inclined towards devotional service. So that's the kind of children that we would like to have. So the circumstances for creating a good child is mentioned in the Vedas again. For everything, that's the Bible, that's the handbook that they all go to. So Prabhupada says that in the Kama Shastra, the scripture in which there are suitable arrangements for are prescribed for factually glorious sex life or union. So how one has to unite with the wife is given. So everything needed is mentioned there. Then it is also talking about what sort of a house one needs to have, what kind of decorations there should be, then what sort of dress the wife should be having, or how she should be decorated with ointments, scents, and other attractive features, etc. Now Devahuti is aware of this, and then she wants to fulfill these things. Now, these requisites fulfilled, what will happen is it will attract the husband to the wife. It will attract the husband to the beauty of the wife. And then that will kind of create a very favorable mental situation in the minds of the people. And then what happens by that is that situation, that mental favorable condition gets transferred into the womb of the wife. So this is again the subtle thing that we need to be aware of. So what is the disposition of that individual during the union depends on the quality of the child that is coming out. This is very much in line with another example. We have to take cooking. So we say the mood or what goes on in the mind of the person who's cooking, it's transferred into the cooking, and then whoever consumes it, then the mood gets transferred there in a very subtle way, right? So even in the aspect of cooking, we've heard that. So in similar way, all activities, if it is done with Krishna Prajna or Krishna consciousness, then it gives a very favorable situation. So that's one thing that, I mean, it's not done, the union is not in the mood of enjoyment, but in the mood of what is ordained in the scriptures, so that the end result of that particular union is again favorable. So what's the point of bringing forth cats and dogs? Prabhupada uses that particular phrase. He says, if we don't follow the scriptures, if we are not Krishna conscious, then if we are doing activities for our own sense pleasures, then the end result would be that we will be having cats and dogs as children. So what he tries to mean is the mentality of cat and dog. That's the kind of children that one will have. So this is definitely what is not needed for any of us, especially more so here now with respect to Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So the Shastra, she is aware that the Shastra says that the husband has to be attracted towards the wife, and that is when the union will bring forth a male child. So she had a desire to bring forth a male child. So she wanted her husband to be attracted towards her. And she also realizes that she has not maintained herself so well because she was just going about doing her duties. So she is very skinny, and the hair is not very well kept, and so on and so forth. So in that situation, she understood that Kardama Muni is such a great individual, a very elevated person. He definitely will not be attracted towards her. And in that mental frame, if there is a union, then it may not give her result which is going to be favorable for them. They might end up with some other result, which means that the child may not be of the right temperament. It might be a child with Rakshasa propensity, so to speak. And then we know there's other extreme example. So anyway, we will just continue with this now. So and then she also understands that in the Ayurveda, Prabhupada says that in the Ayurveda, there is a mention that during the union, if there is attraction between the husband and the wife during the union. If the husband's attraction is more than the wife, then there is a chance or a possibility of a male child. And if it is vice versa, in the sense that if the woman's attraction is greater than the man's at that point, then there is a possibility of a girl child. So because they were aware of this, and this is based on the Ayurveda, so they just wanted to, or she wanted to ensure that she is looking attractive to her husband, and that is why she is directly asking him how I should go about making myself ready in a way that it is attractive to him. And she wants to be instructed by the husband, and then she also says the surrounding, that is the house, the hermitage is not fit for this kind of an activity, because it's a very sattvic and a very very spiritual place it has become. So in that perspective, she says that we need to have a suitable house which would ensure that, or it will facilitate a union which will bring about a male child, which would make Kardama Muni attracted towards her, and so on and so forth. So in this way, the conversation is going on. And then, so we saw the mood of Devahuti here, and now the next verse talks about the mood of Kardama Muni. So here, Maitreya Rishi is actually continuing to Vidura. So this whole conversation we know is between Maitreya and Vidura. So here, Maitreya is telling Vidura, "Oh Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife," that is the wife of Kardama Muni, sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. So he immediately brings forth a mansion which could fly in the skies, and it is controlled not by gasoline or by solar power or any of those things. It is controlled by the will, by the mind. You just desire to go to a certain place, and then it will go there. So in this way, he brings about this particular mansion. And now there is this description of the mansion. So the whole thing is being set up. And then in this, how did he go about bringing it? Not through hard work, not through labor, not through going and then asking somebody, because I don't have the means, so asking the king or something like that. Nothing of that sort. He used his own yogic power, because he had a lot of yogic power, and based on that, he was able to bring about. He could achieve anything. And then Prabhupada very nicely brings out the aspect of yogam astitaha. So which means that Kardama Muni was completely perfect in yoga. And as the result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. We know that. Anima, Lagima, Mahima. So what are those actually? The yogi can become smaller than the smallest. Then he can become greater than the greatest. That is in times of size, very small or very big. So can you recall who exhibited this quality, or who of becoming small and then becoming big, or becoming big first and then becoming small?
Hanuman.
Hanuman. Yeah, Haribol, yeah. So because Ashtasiddhi, he also had this Ashtasiddhi. So he had all the 8 perfections. So when he was confronted by a demon, when he was trying to fly to Lanka, then he didn't want to fight. So very cleverly, he expands himself so much that he keeps that demon in the form of a monster is opening the mouth wider and wider and wider, because Hanuman is growing bigger and bigger. Then suddenly he becomes very, very small, and then he enters the mouth and then comes out, and then he says, "I fulfilled your desire because you wanted me to enter your mouth. I did that. Now you cannot hold me. Now allow me to go. I don't want to have a fight." He could have easily defeated and fight, but he didn't want to do that because his mission was something else. He had to reach Lanka fast. He didn't want to waste time trying to spend, I mean, in quarrel and all that. So like that. So this is the mysticism that we are talking about. And then they can become lighter than the lightest, and then they can become heavier than the heaviest. So who again displayed that in some pastime it comes.
Lord as Vamandev?
No, that is in terms of size, but we're not talking about Lord. We're talking about Ashtasiddhas for the living entities. So same Hanuman, when there is this interaction with him, Bhima, you remember? So there is this tail that is there, and then it is coming in the way of Bhima because he's trying to walk through the forest. And then he tells that monkey, I mean, of course, it's not Hanuman as Hanuman, it's in the form of a monkey. He says, old monkey that too. Then he says, hey monkey, can't you see that I'm walking and your tail is coming in the way path? I cannot cross over it. So just remove your tail. Means withdraw it so that I can move. Then the monkey says that, oh, I'm so old, I cannot do anything. Why don't you only please help me out? Just push it aside and then you can go. He says, okay. And then he tries to push, but he's not able to push. He doesn't even budge. And then he leaves his gada. He puts all his energy, both hands, first one hand, then both hands, then is all, that kind of, that particular pastime. And then finally, the monkey reveals himself that he is Hanuman. So that kind of interaction that they have, where he becomes heavier than the heaviest. So these are some of the siddhis that sometimes devotees have displayed. And that's what I was trying to bring out here. Then, so the siddhis there, you can even create anything that you desire. So he can even create a planet, or a person having that siddhi can establish influence over anyone. That Vashikaran kind of an influence. And then in this way, yogic perfection is achieved. And after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. So Kadamba Muni is already in that stage where he had all this perfection. So creating a mansion was not a very big thing for him. It was like a child's play. I mean, he could do it. That's not a big thing for him. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. So there was this wonderful structure that got built. And then in the next verses, the description of this structure is there. It's a flying mansion. It is not a flying aircraft. It is much, much, much bigger than a Boeing 747 or whatever, or an Airbus or whatever, the biggest one in the world today. It is much bigger than that. And it had stories. It had 7 stories. So one above another. And then there were so many things that was there. It was a luxury, like a yacht, no? Luxury yacht. So it had many stories, and then it could, but only thing is it's not going on water, it can actually fly. And then it could go from one planet to another, and from one universe to another. It could go wonderfully because it was going the speed of mind, controlled by mind. So it was a wonderful structure. So here it is actually literally a castle in the air. And then castles in the air is a concept which means that if something is not existing or it cannot be achieved, then it is called as castles in the air. So there's generally, that's the phrase that is used. Prabhupada says that actually this is a castle in the air, but castles in the air are actually imagination or feeble imagination. But then Kadamba Muni made even that feeble imagination possible. So thereby, that's how Prabhupada in his purport is glorifying Kadamba Muni for what he did immediately. And that castle was described as Sarva Kama Dugam. That means yielding whatever one desired. It was full of jewels. There were pillars made of pearls and valuable stones. And these valuable jewels and stones were not subject to deterioration, but were everlasting, and they were increasing in their opulence. In those days, these jewels used to bring out so much of radiance or light that there was no need for any lighting. You had something very similar in another instance. Who can recall another instance where such things were there? In the palace of Lord Krishna in Dwaraka. 16,108 palaces he built, we know, and each of them did not, there was no need for any illumination. There was so much with pearls, jewels, and all these precious stones that itself was providing the light for the entire palace. So that's the way the opulence is being described. And then we understand that this particular palace or a mansion in the sky was not any ordinary mansion. It was almost as equal to what Krishna had made for his wife in Dwaraka in that particular pastime. So the castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, everything fully furnished. There is nothing else. You don't even have to take your clothes. Sometimes, in our when we're looking for houses, some of them say, just bring your clothes and nothing else. But here it is even better than that. You don't even have to take your clothes. So you just go there, and then everything is available, including the clothes and all of that. So the curtains are there. Everything, whatever you want, decorated, and then it is very decorative. The interiors is fully done, interior, exterior, everything. So there were flags, festoons, artistic works, there were designs, everything was there. There was nothing that you could think of which is not there in that particular mansion. That's the type of thoroughness, or that's the type of eye to detail with which it was created. And then the palace actually looked very charming. It had beds, it had couches, it had fans, it had seats, all of them separately arranged in the 7 stories. So here Prabhupada is saying that we should understand that this multi-storied concept is not something that is a modern day thing. It existed even millions of years before. And what is that word there? Upari vinyastha. So everything was separate and it was all kept one above the other. So there were floors. So there was totally 7 floors. And so that's how the description of the mansion is there. And yeah, I think in this way, this whole conversation is going about where we understood the, the mood of Devahuti, why she wanted to be attractive to her husband. And then we saw on the basis of the Vedas, how people in those earlier days used to take the strength of the Vedas, even in their material activities or material wants, fulfilling their material wants and desires. They still relied on the Vedic injunctions or what is given in the Vedas. That was one aspect. Then we also saw how Kardama Muni was reciprocating to the wants of Devahuti. And then because he understood what she wanted, they could understand the minds of each other. And then he goes about obliging or fulfilling it. And to begin with, he actually constructs a mansion by just by thinking about the mansion, then he was able to bring forth that. That's the kind of siddhi that he had. And then that mansion, the description we saw in brief. So like this, up to verse 16, we are seeing the description of the mansion. And then it will continue where Devahuti is actually stuck with emotions, and then she's like impressed by the prowess of Kardama Muni. And then she understands that her husband is a very great personality. And then she just follows his instructions. So there's a lot of awe, reverence, respect, and also love for Kardama Muni. And in the same way, Kardama Muni also has a lot of emotions for his wife Devahuti, because she had assisted him in many rituals and all that. She had given herself up, all that royalty for him. So in that way, Kardama Muni had these emotions for her. And then we are seeing this, where they go about bringing forth the incarnation of the Lord, that is Kapila Muni. So this is the pre-preparation that we are seeing, and then how they go about doing that. So these are the verses, and this is what we are just seeing. I'll stop here. If there are any comments or questions anybody has with respect to whatever we saw now, you can go ahead with it. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Pranams,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, I just wanted to know, Prabhuji, like how are the followers of the devotees become so powerful that they are able to give so much of benedictions? Is it that they are giving according to their own will, or by the mercy of the Lord only, or by the instruction of the Lord?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a not tricky, you'll have to, a deep thinking question, because however elevated a person is, eventually it's the will of the Lord, because we understand that everybody is functioning as per the will of the Lord, including demigods. we are what to speak of just ordinary human beings here. Even the demigods are not outside the will of the Lord. So in one perspective, it's the will of the Lord is always there. But the Lord is also giving a free will for each of them. So they will have their own propensities for certain things, and thereby they do those things, for which then they will have to either reap the benefit, reap the reactions of it. So good or bad, whatever it is, the outcome. So these things are not applicable only for very elevated people like Lord Shiva and all that. Otherwise, everyone else is subject to this kind of a thing. Because Lord Shiva, it is not subject to. Why? Because we know in the pastime of
Daksha.
Daksha's pastime. So we know how he actually goes about killing, or he is responsible for that. He becomes angry and all that. But then he doesn't get chastised, or there is no repentance or anything like that in that instance. So if you look at those, when we read those chapters, we'll understand. And then where Daksha had to repent and then realize his mistake. And Brahma also advises in the same way to Daksha, without trying to say that Shiva became angry, he shouldn't have become, nothing of that sort. So that only at that level, it's different. So it's difficult for us to understand. But then with these, we can have some idea. But otherwise, for all the rest of us, it is all the will of the Lord only. And then there is also this, we'll have to go through the karma, the effect of karma is always there. So that's because of the independence that is given to us. Now the siddhis, whether they have siddhis or they don't have siddhis, anyway, it is their desires are also fulfilled, but then it has the sanction of the Lord. So it's the same like what happens with us in one sense.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, like Devahuti asking for all such material things, though it seemed material for all of us, like, and Kardama did so much of meditation and so much of penance to get the mercy of the Lord, vision of the Lord, darshan of the Lord. So even after that, to have so much material things, only to even to have a progeny. So I'm not able to understand that, Prabhuji.
See, like Mataji, what happens is they are not attached to these things. They desire for a certain purpose. So like you hire something for a certain purpose. They're not attached to those things. They not say that we will keep it. If you see the subsequent verses, so after everything, they just give up. There is no more mansion, nothing of that sort. He just walks away. He goes back. So they are not attached to it. And they understand that they are brought together, there's a situation, and they have a duty towards each other, and then they have to go about doing something. So that's the mood. That's how then, see, this is a precursor to bringing forth the Supreme Personality Lord, that is the incarnate in the Lord Kapila. So they are actually not in it for material enjoyment. They're not in it because, okay, this is going to be give me some pleasure, so I'll do it. No, it is because it has to happen. They know that there is this personality of God who is to come, and then afterwards he will leave. Then he'll give. In fact, Kardama Muni, when Devahuti later on asks for instructions, Kardama Muni says that your son will give you those instructions. I will not. I'm going now, and then he walks away. So there is detachment. There is no attachment, or there is no lust, or there is no satisfaction of senses. That's not the primary goal. So that's how then we have to understand it, and that's the explanation that the acharyas give. So this is like and that is what we are actually we have been. It's necessary. So we have been told to develop that kind of a view to all things. For them, there is nothing like material and spiritual. Everything is one, spiritual. Everything is with respect to the Lord only. So this activity is also like as good as lighting a fire for the Homa, because they are pleasing the Lord here also. That's the way they look at it. But it is very difficult for us to comprehend that, because in our mind, we are differentiating material and spiritual. So sometimes we wonder what this is and all that. But for them, it doesn't make. And then Krishna also supports this statement. He says, I am that sex life which is devoid of lust and then pleasure. And then, in Bhagavad Gita, there is one shloka. I don't know the shloka, but this is the meaning of it, where he says that that is me. When he says, no, this is me, this is me, this is me, that he also says, I am sex life devoid of lust or devoid of material pleasures. So like that, it's there, but it's just that We may not understand it, but at least let's accept it and then make an effort to understand slowly. Krishna will give us that intelligence, and then we will begin to make some sense out of this whole thing. Like the fact that there's nothing material and spiritual. After a certain level, everything is spiritual. But till we get to that point, we have to differentiate. So we are material and spiritual.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderfully explained. Very helpful, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Okay, so I think we can conclude the shlokas and then we'll move on to the other topic that I was referring to. So I'll try to share something. We'll try to read the life history of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Okay, so let me just share. Just give me a minute. So as you all can see, the PPT
Yes, Prabhuji.
has come up now. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So yesterday, we know that he left his mortal body and then Maharaj has gone into the permanent pastimes of Krishna and as an associate of Krishna. So that's the context, and that is why then yesterday in the night, Ashish Prabhu, he called me and then he said, if we can do this, then it will be nice. So I said, it's a rare opportunity for any of us to even talk about such great Mahatmas, such great individuals. So listening to such great individuals, their life story, and also how they went about doing their duties, and then how they went about guiding people, what is the vision that they had. So if we are just dwelling on them, then definitely their mercy will be on us. So with that in mind, then I've just made some few slides. Of course, he helped me with the text. So he shared what we could share in terms of this life story. So I'll just read that, and then we will try to understand His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Okay, so I've just put it up here for all of you to see, but then don't read individually. We'll read it together. That's the only thing. So His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he appeared on 14th of August 1944 in New Delhi, India. So that day was the 11th day of the waning moon. That was the Ekadashi. And on the auspicious day of Lord Hari, that was another Ekadasi. So on that day, Maharaj was born. So there is not much about his childhood, incidences or his childhood days. But then immediately we know that actually Maharaj, he graduated from the University of Delhi. So which means that he was brought up in Delhi. And then His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj then did his business management at Sorbonne University of Paris. So he had a scholarship. And this was all in the 60s, by the way, not the 80s, not even the 80s and the 90s. Of course, after 2000, so many people go to so many countries for doing things. But then in those days, it was very different. So hardly anybody used to go. Very few people used to venture out. So Maharaj was one of them. So he did his management at this particular university in Paris on a scholarship from the French government. Then later on, he obtained a master's degree in business administration from McGill University at Montreal, which is Canada. Then His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami's life changed dramatically after he met His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in 1968. So after all this, he was set to, get on to this life of Grihastha life, whatever. I mean, settle down, find a job and all that, because he'd finished his studies. But then something different happened after that, and that's when then he met Srila Prabhupada. That was in 1968. So His Holiness was actually living in Toronto. So after the Montreal Business Administration, he was in Toronto. And then at that point, he actually had received an invitation from the president of the Montreal Temple. So we know that Montreal Temple is, there was this ISKCON temple that was coming up. And then among the first outside of US was Montreal. That was the temple that got opened. So the president of that particular temple, he actually invites His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj in his poor ashram. He was invited there. So actually, he arrived, means Prabhupada was actually coming. So there was a schedule where Prabhupada was supposed to come on the 30th of May 1968. So he had invited, I mean, they invite people so that they can come and then take the association of Srila Prabhupada. So he was one of the invitees. So when His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj came to the temple, the president, that is His Grace Mahapurusha Dasa, he announced that Srila Prabhupada would be arriving the next day, that is the 1st of June. So actually he didn't come on 30th, but then he came the next day on 1st of June. So again, Maharaj was there. Then after the Kirtan, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj asked Mahapurusha Dasa if there was any service he could do. So because he came to the temple, now he just asked him, and he said, okay, anyway, Prabhupada is not coming today, he's coming tomorrow, that's fine. But if there is any service, then you tell me. So maybe I can do any service that is fit for me. So that's we can understand the disposition of Maharaj even before he became a Maharaj, even before he met Srila Prabhupada. So there, Mahapurusha Dasa, the president, he immediately sends him to clean Srila Prabhupada's room. So he gets that up service. So he has to go and then prepare the room, clean the room, because the next day Prabhupada is coming. So they would, any hand is always welcome. So he's happy and then he gives him this. So Maharaj is saying, I was fortunate enough to receive this as my first assignment in devotional service. And then he cleaned the doors, the shelves, and then the windows of Srila Prabhupada's apartment where he was supposed to stay. And in this way, his service attitude for Srila Prabhupada was manifest right from the beginning, even before he actually met Srila Prabhupada. So the service started even before he met the Guru, or he met Srila Prabhupada. Then he first met Srila Prabhupada in the evening of 1st of June 1968. So now within the first 2 weeks of meeting him, what happened? His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj knew that he would accept him as a spiritual master. So he knew in that 2 weeks that when he was interacting, he knew that he was going to be his spiritual master. Then around December of 1967, 6 months before he met Srila Prabhupada, Gopal Krishna Maharaj had a strong desire to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So we can understand a brief about what was his disposition then. He actually wanted to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So he had actually started visiting many Hindu temples. He was visiting Gurudwaras. He was visiting churches and so on and so forth, hoping to find out about God. So we can see how everyone is having this particular quest to understand or to find out God. And when that desire becomes so intense, then the Lord, that is Krishna, then arranges for a guru. So we know that, right? When we desire to seek out the Lord, then the Lord arranges arranges for a guru, and then the guru comes in front, and then you associate with the guru, and then from there, then it becomes the guru is the key that unlocks the door to Krishna. So every day, every Sunday, he would seek out a different church, a temple or a gurudwara, and would spend the whole day there. So that was what he was doing, even though he had done all his studies, and then he was very well qualified, masters and administration and all of that, and that too in the 60s. Hare Krishna. So kindly request you all to go on mute. Thank you so much. The host can mute the participants. That will be nice. Okay, thank you. So His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, in his own words, he says, when I first met Srila Prabhupada, the motivation to surrender to God was already there in me. And 2 weeks after meeting him, I knew that Lord Krishna wanted me to surrender to Srila Prabhupada. So he was able to see all this very clearly. So because he was already much advanced in his spiritual understanding in Krishna. So that's how we can understand Srila, His Holiness His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Then Srila Prabhupada actually was always very sympathetic and extra merciful to Indians. Of course, Maharaj was an Indian in Montreal, so he was very sympathetic to them. But of all the Indians who came to listen to him, young Gopal Krishna was very special. While all the other Indians would offer obeisances and sit for a few minutes and then leave, He was the only Indian who would come regularly and sit right till the lecture ended. So he was actually listening to Prabhupada. This we have seen. If you look at the biography of Srila Prabhupada, there it is mentioned that generally it is only the non-Indians who would come, and then there is a lot of interaction and all that. So sometimes we used to wonder, how come there were no Indians who used to come and meet? Of course, there are a lot of Indians, but then the Indians, the way they were looking at Prabhupada was very different. They were a little hostile. So we've seen instances where Mayavad oriented people used to come and then they used to argue. All these young Indians who were studying there at that point when Prabhupada was there in the late 60s. So they were very argumentative, and then they used to argue with Prabhupada. Argument is okay, but then they used to argue without accepting what Prabhupada used to say. So there was no surrender. So that way, none of them could qualify to go anywhere near Srila Prabhupada, except young Gopal Krishna. So we can see that here. During the 3 months period that Srila Prabhupada stayed and lectured in Montreal, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami says that, of course, I did not at any time know the importance of hearing. But my only small qualification was that I was very respectful to Srila Prabhupada from the first day I saw him. That is what set him aside from the rest of the Indians. They were not very respectful, but he was very respectful to Prabhupada, even though he didn't know the philosophy, he didn't know about Shravanam, he didn't know about the importance of hearing. But then he had a lot of respect for Prabhupada. And I would stay for his lectures till the end and leave only after he had left the temple. So he was just following the etiquette, and then that respect was there, that maryada was there. So it's such an important ingredient to have. So if we have the right mind frame, then everything falls in place. So around that time, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami was working for Pepsi Cola. So okay, so like the normal regular Karmi life, handling their marketing research. So not just an ordinary job, you're actually doing the job of a market research. Then Srila Prabhupada started taking great personal interest in him and would talk to him almost every day. So Prabhupada actually took a lot of interest in him. Since then, both of them started a regular correspondence. So then after that, after the 3-month period, we know that Prabhupada was traveling. So, but then there, because Prabhupada was not in the same city as young Gopal Krishna, so it didn't mean that they stopped communicating or the connection was broken. It continued. So there were regular correspondence was there, and Prabhupada encouraged that. Srila Prabhupada writing as many as 3 long letters every month. That's the type of communication or the frequency or the intensity of communication that they had. Thus began a very intimate Guru-Shishya relationship. So it says, no, Tadvidi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. In that it says that the Guru and then the Shishya, both of them, before they become Guru and Shishya, before the relationship becomes formal, they can evaluate each other, and that was what was happening. So on 27th of May 1969, Srila Prabhupada wrote to say, as your name is already Gopala Krishna, there is no need for changing it. You will now be known as Gopal Krishna Dasa. So he got initiated in that way. His Holiness was only 25 years old then. So Maharaj was only 25 years old. And then later on, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj moved into the temple and engaged himself fully in the service of Srila Prabhupada. Because in those days, we knew that initiation and all that means then moving into the temple. Unlike now, where there is a separate stream, the Grihastha or the congregation devotees, like how generally we are all referred to as. But in those days, that was not the case. Everybody had to move to the temple. So likewise, young Gopal Krishna also moved because he was now Gopal Krishna Dasa. So for many years, he acted as the personal secretary for Srila Prabhupada. So that was another seva that he got. Then in 1975, Srila Prabhupada sent His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami to India. So till then, Maharaj was in Canada. Then he comes to India, or he was sent to India. He had made His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami the governing body commissioner for the entire India from 75 to 76. Srila Prabhupada specifically instructed Maharaj to print and expand book distribution in India. So he was actually given a lot of responsibility with respect to India. So Srila Prabhupada encouraged His Holiness to utilize his talents for selling his books as widely as possible. So what was Maharaj's talent? He was into marketing. He was an MBA. He was a Master of Business Administration. So, and he was doing market research for Pepsi Cola. So he had all the skills to actually sell anything. So he engaged him in selling books as widely as possible. Now you can utilize your knowledge of marketing for Krishna's service. And then idam hi pumas tapasya shrintasya va svishtasya sukhasya chabuddhi tatthayo. This is the perfection of education. So Prabhupada is telling Maharaj. Around this time, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was also made GBC for Russia. So more and more responsibilities are being added for Maharaj. Later, he made several trips to communist Soviet Union and, risking grave danger, preached and distributed books over there. After the fall of the communist regime and the freedom granted to religious expression, he has helped establish many centers in the erstwhile Soviet Union. So his service to Russia continues much later also. So what was given to him by Srila Prabhupada in the 70s, he carried it forward all through, and then even in the 80s, and then when the regime changed in Soviet Union, when it fell, like we know it happened in the late 80s, then also he continued. And then because there was a lot of religious freedom that was given to them there, so it was not so strict. It was not no longer a grave danger to preach. So he utilized that particular opportunity and established many centers in the Soviet Union. So in 1981, His Holiness took to the sannyasa order. So that's when young Gopal Krishna Dasa became a sannyasi. And in March of 1982, so within a year, on the auspicious day of Gaura Purnima, he became a Diksha Guru, an initiating spiritual master. So he became a disciple of Prabhupada. Then after that, he became a sannyasi, devotee. And then from there, then he became a initiating guru or a Diksha Guru for ISKCON. So His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj is also the chairman and trustee of the Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust, because we know that printing of books was entrusted to him, which is the largest publisher and distributor of Vedic literature all over the world. So he is also the governing body commissioner for Western and Northern India, Kenya, parts of America, and many parts of the erstwhile Soviet Union. So these are all the areas where Maharaj was actively involved in preaching. And then he was given the position so that he could take forward the mission of Prabhupada and the vision of Prabhupada. So he was there in that. So now there is also this brief about what all he has been involved in. So His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami has been and is at present, or I mean up till yesterday, he was actively involved in many of ISKCON's current projects, including the multi-crore Glory of India project in New Delhi. This includes a multimedia visual display, a Vedic cultural museum, the Sri Sri Radha Parthasarathi temple, and an open-air theatre. So he is actively involved in construction. We all know how Maharaj was very easily, or I mean, in the sense, very quickly he could raise funds for any infrastructure building and all of that. He is known for that. So in Bombay, past services include a centennial committee that was formed to launch campaigns to create funds to celebrate Srila Prabhupada's centennial, that is the 100th year. So these include the building of Srila Prabhupada's Memorial Hospital project, a nationwide communications project, then the Hare Krishna television project, and many more are being discussed and improvised. His Holiness has also procured land in Kurukshetra and Vrindavan for expanding preaching programs. So he was the man with a vision who could go about furthering the cause of ISKCON very greatly in India. And these are some of the projects that he has been associated with. And then currently this has manifested in Heaven on Earth. That's another magnificent project. This time at Hare Krishna land in Juhu, that's in Bombay or Mumbai. The Vedic Educational and Cultural Complex at the Heaven on Earth is a must-visit place where the Robo Show presents religious knowledge by using electronic power. So the modern with the religious both coming together and then giving a presentation to the people so that they'll be able to comprehend, remember the aspects of spiritualism in a much better way. So this is a way of reaching out to the masses. So there are also excellent facilities at the new revamped guest house and the unparalleled prasadam served at Govinda's here. So actually, Juhu is known for the Govindas and the wonderful prasadam that you've had. I had the good fortune to have a couple of times. So it's very famous, it's very well known. So, Maharaj had a hand in getting it to where it is. Then congregational participation is being encouraged in all spheres here and in other zones. So congregational participation is the participation of grihasthas or people who are outside of ISKCON, but then who want to practice Krishna consciousness in their own homes, respective homes. So that is also encouraged in all the zones. And in the erstwhile Soviet Union, His Divine Grace has had phenomenal success in serving Srila Prabhupada across Delhi and other zones. Buildings have been acquired, book distribution is growing rapidly, food for life programs have been introduced and are thriving. Then weekly seminars are being conducted, restaurants are being developed, regular preaching programs are being conducted in schools and colleges, and people are becoming favorable to the movement. So this entire aspect, all that hard work has already been done by Maharaj. He was in setting up various ways, introducing ISKCON to the society at large, and then how various aspects of society was tapped so that like the food, so the restaurants are there, in that way. It is not just philosophy and preaching. Then there are seminars, and then there is also food for life for the needy people. So prasadam distribution, and then preaching programs, of course, were there for schools and colleges. That is catching them young, so that quickly, they become Krishna conscious. Then as they grow up, they'll become wonderful individuals. So in this way, the movement's favorability, Maharaj had a very big hand in ensuring that in India. And of course, also in places like Russia and all that. So the other projects that include youth cultivation programs, house programs in every corner of the world, and overseeing the translation, printing, and distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books, youth and householders in the congregation are thriving in numbers and throbbing with enthusiasm in serving Lord Chaitanya's mission under Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So thus, Lord Krishna's mercy is being distributed everywhere. So he was instrumental in distributing the mercy of Prabhupada, the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami's spirited enthusiasm makes even a septic pause and contemplate. Even a septic, that means a person who is very not very favorable, to pause and contemplate on his words. So his enthusiasm could touch even a very cold person also. That is what is the view of one of the atheistic visitors who visited him. So even though they were not they were atheists, but they did not believe in God, but then his words had an impact on them. Then his aims are so clear that many are overwhelmed by his selfless and compassionate intellect. So he was intelligent, he knew the philosophy, he was also selfless, and he was very compassionate. Very rare combination, because generally somebody with intelligence is not very selfless, or they are not compassionate because they are very self-centered. So like that. But then Maharaj was a rare combination of all of this. And as they strive towards becoming virtuous people. So even the subtle concepts are explained with such admirable ease and patience. So Maharaj is actually known for that. So he'd make it things simple and then make it very easy. And then he had a lot of patience. And then he was very humble. So these are some of the qualities that we can, even if we have not interacted much with him, these are things that come through in his, when you listen to his lectures, or when you listen to his devotees or people who have heard him speak about, or who have interacted with him, speak about him, you can hear these aspects come out very clearly. So Srila Prabhupada always admired his qualities of head and heart. So he was one who used both his head and heart. And then he once remarked, Gopala is a very nice boy and he must be encouraged. So even hardcore atheists are attracted to his graceful simplicity. Every encounter, every gesture, and every answer brings out the inner conviction he has in the mission he has embraced. So he was completely convinced. In the inner conviction was so strong about the mission, about Srila Prabhupada, about ISKCON. So he was always loyal in every way. There was not a single instance where there was this kind of a confrontation or a dilemma or a situation where he had to lean on the other side. No, he always knew where he had to leave or which side to take. And he was always loyal to ISKCON, to the setup. Why ISKCON and to the setup is because it was set up by Srila Prabhupada. So that was the mood of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And then I've also put some quotes that Gopal Krishna Maharaj said. Of course, there are many things that he had said, just to give a flavor of what was his thought process. So the first quote is like this. Prabhupada used to say that the heart is as black as coal. Normally, coal cannot become white. We all know that. There's a thing that it is like coal can never become white, whatever process you subjugate it to. So, but chanting of the holy name is so powerful that it can convert the black coal-like heart into a white heart, which means that even the impossible can be achieved by the power of the holy name. So much of conviction he had with respect to chanting, and we can understand from this particular quote. So where he said that even though Prabhupada has said that the heart is as black as coal, so normally coal cannot become white. So you have the heart, his heart speaking, and then his head speaking, because he knows in his head that coal cannot become white. Then again, his heart takes over, the conviction takes over. He said, the chanting of the holy name is so powerful that it can convert the black coal-like heart into a white heart. So here you can see a display of both his head and heart in understanding Srila Prabhupada, and then how he is aligned to Prabhupada, and then how he is convinced about the chanting. So if one has worked hard for Krishna, this is the next one, Krishna is not going to forget that. We should always keep this in mind, that devotional service, whatever we do, will never go in vain. And whatever service we are asked, we should do it with love for the pleasure of the Lord. So nothing is going to go in vain. And it is a seva that we are doing. So whatever be the service, whatever we've been asked to do, we just have to take it up and then do it for the love, do it with love for the pleasure of the Lord. So we should do it with love, not with a grudging way or trying to look at the other services others have got and then comparing and then saying, oh, I got such a small one. This is not fair. What is this Krishna? We also think of Krishna, but then that kind of remembrance Krishna does not give pleasure to the Lord. We have to understand that. Will it give pleasure? No. There has to be love. There has to be acceptance of the seva. And it should be an acceptance which will say that, okay, I have got this seva. This is what the Lord wants me to do. So be it. And then do it with love, with care, and then just to please the Lord. So that's the mood in which Maharaj always went about doing his work, and he always preached this particular thing. So we can understand that from this quote. And then the next quote, the last one, I think. Yeah, it says, sometimes our devotees say that I have been exploited. That is Maharaj is saying. Or that I have been overused. But there is no question of spiritual exploitation. Whatever service one has done stays to one's eternal spiritual credit. Otherwise, the whole Bhagavad Gita would become false. What is that shloka? Neha vikramano asti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna very clearly has said that little bit of whatever you do, it stays with you. So these two verses, quotes that are there, are alluding to this particular verse. And then here Maharaj is saying another important aspect he's bringing out here. He's saying there is no exploitation in spiritual service. Exploitation means what? Unnecessarily trying to dump everything to others, right? That's how in the material world people exploit another person. But here in spiritual activity, there is no such exploitation. It is a mercy that you get more, and you should be happy that it's coming to you, and then you should pick it up with love and then do it. So both aspects, getting less service or low quality service, I mean, in the material eyes, is something lower than the other. Though spiritually, there is nothing like high and low service. But still, for us, because we are conditioned materially, we might we're supposed to think about something being higher than the other. So there, thinking that I've got a very low service is also not good. And also thinking that I'm getting too much of service. So but these are the two complaints generally people have, devotees, practicing devotees have. Array, I didn't get any service at all, will be one type of conversation. Otherwise, other one is, Array, everything has got dumped onto me. Kaise karoon? What should I do? How will I go about doing it? So these are the two general extremes that get discussed. So now Maharaj very nicely in these two quotes are bringing out the aspect of how we should understand that small service is nothing like that. It will not go in vain, number one. And number two, there is no exploitation. Don't think you are being exploited. Nothing of that sort, because there is nothing, there's no exploitation doesn't exist in spiritual realm. So whatever service one has done stays to one's eternal spiritual credit. So in that mood, again with love and for the pleasure of the Lord, we go about executing. Otherwise, the whole Bhagavad Gita would become false. So these are some of the wonderful quotes. Of course, there are many more that Maharaj has said, but this gives a flavor of into the mind of Maharaj. And then we can just take a small pause and then see what the outside world has got to say with respect to Maharaj. So these are the messages that came from the defense minister, from the vice president. I'll just read it quickly. So, deeply pained by the demise of Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he will always be remembered for his outstanding service to society through ISKCON. So, they saw him and ISKCON as inseparable. His life, rich in spirituality and compassion, will be a guiding light for our society. In this hour of grief, my thoughts are with his countless devotees. Om Shanti. That was Rajnath Singh. Then the Vice President of India, he is saying, in the passing of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ji, Bharat has lost a guiding light of spirituality and compassion. His selfless service through ISKCON touched many lives, leaving an indelible mark on the spiritual landscape. May his teachings of love, compassion, and service continue to illuminate our paths. My condolences to all his devotees and admirers. Om Shanti. So you can see how leaders of India have responded, and then what they have got to say, we are seeing. And of course, last but not the least, this is from the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. He is saying Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was a revered spiritual icon, globally respected for his unwavering devotion to Bhagavan Sri Krishna and his tireless service through ISKCON. How nicely ISKCON and Krishna is there in the way they are looking at Maharaj. Then his teachings emphasize the importance of devotion, kindness, and service to others. And kindness and devotion, all of it is coming up here. He also played a significant role in expanding the community service efforts of ISKCON, particularly in areas like education, health, and serving the needy. So my thoughts are with all the devotees in this tragic hour. And there are also some photos of the interactions that Maharaj had with the Prime Minister. See, actually, Maharaj was the face of ISKCON for many people, like especially for politicians, for India as a whole, and then in particular the politicians, because he was in Delhi. So he had a connect to the Delhi or the seat of power. So Maharaj was the face of ISKCON for them, and rightly so, they've all responded. And then we can see this very nicely here. Now, I'm also trying to give a view. I mean, this is Maharaj in his younger days, interaction with Srila Prabhupada. And we also saw, I'd just like to read one particular aspect. I'll just give me a minute. This is what Prabhupada had actually said. I'll try to read that. There is a letter that Prabhupada had written to Maharaj in his Purvashram. So this was dated from Los Angeles, 31st July, 1969. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. He says, "My dear Gopal Krishna, please accept my blessings. I beg to thank you very much for your letter dated July 26, 1969. So we saw how they continued their interaction after the 1968 meeting. They continued their interactions through correspondence. So this is one of those correspondence. And I have noted the contents carefully, Prabhupada is saying. Regarding your future settlement in India, you can work in any big city like Bombay or Delhi, because without living in a big city, you cannot have a good job because he was very educated. So you can't ask him to settle in a small town. So you can also try Calcutta. Calcutta is also a very big industrial city. And if you are posted there, it will be easier for you to look after the Mayapur, that is contemplated temple. But it does not matter whether you are situated in Bombay, Calcutta, or Delhi. Wherever is suitable, you can accept, Prabhupada is saying. Regarding your dress, you should dress yourself as smartly as possible. Krishna consciousness does not depend on the dress. It is consciousness. If by dressing yourself very nicely, you get honor from your customers, then it's a great asset for business management. So far as your diploma in business management from McGill University is concerned, you must have it by all means. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is enjoined by Srila Rupa Goswami that any work either prescribed in the Vedas or ordinary mundane activity, if the target is to satisfy Krishna, then everything is devotional service. And this is very much aligning to the verses that we saw and the conclusion that we had when we were looking at today's Bhagavatam verses. So there was a question also pertaining to that, and it amounted to the same thing. So you can see that here also. So in the Shrimad Bhagavatam also, it is recommended by Suta Goswami that ultimate perfection of engagement is tested by the satisfaction of the Lord. Our aim should be how to please Krishna. As it is said in English also, the ends justify the means. So it is my request to you that keep Krishna always in view and accept anything necessary for your worldly affairs. I am very pleased to note that in such things you consult me. This is another important point Prabhupada is bringing out. You are consulting me, and that is pleasing Prabhupada. This is a very nice habit. You will please always consult me before doing anything, and I shall try to guide you to my best abilities. Regarding the distribution of BTG or my publications, I welcome your floating a company yourself for this purpose. So they were discussing the modalities, how to go about it, and there this interaction is there. So in that case, your company will be another department of the society, although the society has no intention to interfere with your business. Your business will be considered as my business. So think of it very carefully, and it will be very nice. So even though there is a free hand, but Prabhupada indirectly is saying that your business is my business. So think carefully. So because it is your guru's business also. So which means that whatever you do, you will have to do it in a proper way. So regarding calls from Bombay, I was expecting your father's reply by this time. Anyway, I hope to receive the same as soon as possible. Last week, I was in San Francisco, and the Ratha Yatra ceremony was very grand success. I hope this will meet you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami. So that's how Prabhupada used to sign. So we can understand the subtle qualities of Maharaj here, where he, right from his beginning days, he was always consulting Prabhupada for all aspects of his life. And that is how Prabhupada then guided him to where he came as the Diksha Guru. And then he continued with conviction. And there is so much of humility in Maharaj. So I'm actually not at all fit or qualified to even talk about it. But then I was made this request, so I just got everything together, and then I just tried to present the life of Maharaj here in a very short duration. I just did that. I'm sorry if I have. I've definitely spoken out of my adhikaras because I don't think we're qualified to speak about Maharaj. Maharaj is an epitome of humility. Hare Krishna, I would request devotees to kindly mute. It is disturbing the class. Thank you so much. Kindly go on mute. Thank you. So, don't have any such qualification, but then with a mercy, I just asked to present, and then I did that. So, thank you so much. And then finally, seeking the mercy and blessings from Maharaj for all the devotees here and for myself. Let us all chant once with our heart the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on this occasion, and then thank Maharaj for his mercy, and then continue to guide us so that we will continue to do our activity in the right mood that will please our gurus and Srila Prabhupada, and also be of some use for ISKCON at the moment. So let's all chant once. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
And then Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.
Jai.
On this note, I'll stop here, and then we'll do Vaishnava pranams to everybody, to all the devotees. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai. Jai.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class
Thank you,
on
Ashish
Maharaj.
Prabhuji also.
It
Hare
was
Krishna.
so
For
required. I have
arranging this.
personally
We
got
should all
the
thank Ashish
good
Prabhu for giving
fortune
us a
to
chance to listen and to speak. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Pranam.
Yes,
Hare Bol.
Prabhuji.
Yes,
Hare
Hare Hare Hare. Prabhuji,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
so thank you so much. Your material, yes, it is available everywhere, but the way of communication was excellent. You know, how you made the PPT, it was, we were thinking that we were directly, getting into his life, and we were seeing each and every phase in which he has, embraced his con wholeheartedly. So thank you so much that, you have accepted this seva from a neophyte, and that too in a very short time. So it was a wonderful narration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for
Thank
you are like this thread in the pearls, So you play that role so nicely. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
It was wonderful hearing about Gopal Krishna Maharaj. I have the good fortune to have his darshan as I go to Juhu temple. So I have that fortune to have
Hari
his darshan. Hari Bol.
Hari. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing that. By the way, anyone else wants to say anything about Maharaj, please go ahead. Just short sentence. I know we have passed the time.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Just what I heard yesterday. Actually, when I was seeing in the YouTube videos also, it was saying, somebody said that some disciple of Maharaj said that when the Mayapur temple construction was going on, there were a lot of disturbing sounds, like when the construction was going on. We all can relate. So the Maharaj was telling that it is not a disturbance; it is a kirtan going on. So this is how he was saying. So really, it made me think, and I'm very happy to hear more about him today, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Pranams.
Thank you for sharing that, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yesterday, actually, in Kargar, there was a Narsimha Homa and all that. So I had the fortune of attending that, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Very glad that many of us could participate. I think many temples, almost all the temples, had something or the other praying for his health. And then because it was known that it was Krishna's will from now on, so every temple was having some kind of an activity or the other, mostly about Nasimha, about chanting, about offering Tulsi to Narasimhadev and all that. So many of you have participated. Very nice. So thank you so much. So on this note, I think we can conclude today's session. I'm sorry we took a little more time. Apologies for that. Hare Krishna, and then let's pronounce. We can end the session for everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Vanchakalpadadittasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Anant Koti Vaishnavrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Prabhu, I should end the session.